few points of reflection now. Right. All right, then let's go back to a COT, and let's go back to Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar. Let's see what they say concerning celebrating the Prophet's birth. Why did I choose to quote from these scholars, even though there are hundreds of years passed before these scholars, before it came about. All right. Suyuti, and hopefully I think that you guys got the idea so far, where I'm trying to go with this, the direction. Hopefully you guys got the direction. All right. Suyuti, he says here, listen carefully. Listen very carefully now. He says, Al-Jawabu, Indi. All right, so the whole question says, what is regarding celebrating the Prophet's birthday and the Rabi'ul Awwal? What's this ruling? Min haythu shar'u. What is the ruling of this in the Sharia? Not the customs of the people, but the what? Sharia, Kitab and Sunnah. Is it praiseworthy or is it blameworthy? And the one who celebrates the Prophet's birthday, is he rewarded or not? He says, wal jawabu indi. He says, to me, what I believe. أن أصل عمل الذي هو اجتماع الناس وقراءة ما تيسر من القرآن ورواية الأخبار الواردة في مبدأ أمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وما وقع في مولده من آيات ثم يمد لهم سماع ما كانوا he says وينصرفون من غير زيادة على ذلك هو من البدع الحسنة التي يثاب عليه صاحبها لما فيه من تعظيم قدر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وإظهار الفرح والاستبشار بمولده الشريف. We'll try our best to make the most accurate translation as possible. Says, Indi, to me, my opinion, pay attention, he died in 9/11. Alright, so there's over 800 years of scholars who came before him, and that's why he clearly said what? Pay attention to the words. Not consensus, not 4 imams, but he said what? What I feel. And that's the duty of the scholar. To give what he knows, what he feels based off of the text. I believe it's permissible. You may disagree, but this is the best I got. Alright? Suyuti rahimahullah, he says, the origin, aslu amin al-mawlid, celebrating the Prophet's birthday originally, listen carefully, which was, or is supposed to be, ijtima'un nasi, people gathering and uniting, congregating. And what do they do when they gather and they congregate? Reading whatever they can from the Quran. Reading these stories, the seerah stories, the hadiths about how the Prophet was born, how he became a prophet, how he became a messenger. He says, this is long, excuse me. وَمَا وَقَعَ فِي مَوْلِدِهِ. He says all of the signs of Allah, the ayat, how the Prophet was born, the miraculous things when he was a young Quraysh, his chest being split open, and being raised an orphan, etc., etc., etc. He says, and then the people leaving. That's it. That's the end of the celebration. Nothing else. So Suyuti, he's saying that I consider celebrating the Prophet's birthday, which originally, listen to the words, originally, meaning that it is what? It evolved. And it mutated. People turned it into something which it wasn't. I.e., celebrating the Prophet's birthday was supposed to be a spiritual gathering. And which we're just talking about, speaking about spirituality. The day that the earth changed forever. The day that the world changed what? Forever. How Allah protected the Prophet. How Allah sent the Prophet, etc. The good positivities. He says, min ghayri ziyadatin. Not anything else, Suyuti says. Including singing, dancing, eating, festivities. I consider this to be from the good innovations. Once again, he used the same as Hadith ibn Hajar. So he himself, who's saying that it's a good thing, acknowledges the fact that it's what? It's an innovation. But he says it's a what? A good innovation. You may dislike me as a person, that's fine. You may not like me, that's good, that's all good. But you cannot claim that I'm the one innovating when you in actuality are what? That's just totally unfair. Yeah. My innovation is good, no problem. But you do the fact that you're what? You are the innovator. Israel has the right to defend itself. Okay, everybody has the right to defend himself. How do I come to your land and then say I'm defending myself when I'm the invader? Where's the common sense? The Arabs are the invaders. Okay, no problem. There was no such thing as Palestine. The Philistines, that's a Roman term. No doubt. This guy was, how many years ago was that? So if I take your address and I come and bulldoze your house, kick in the door, regardless of your wife, your children, I say my great-great-great-grandfather, just my great-grandfather, he used to own this land, and he was kicked off this land. Now I'm taking it from you. Would you accept that? Do we accept the Indians, the savages, taking back Washington, D.C.? And that was how many years ago? And there are no discrepancies concerning lineage, this and that. Clear as day. This person is an Indian. Clear as day. It wouldn't be accepted. So you got 2,000, 3,000 years. This Roman Emperor, King Harold Temple. It's so many different points of discrepancy. How in the world are you the victim defending yourself and you're the oppressor? You're the one with the multi-billion-dollar war industry. Now, you can still fight back against people who don't want our state to exist. You got that. They shot rockets at us. We will strike the oppressor in the force. You can say all of that. But you cannot claim to be the what? The victim. That doesn't work like that. So Suyuti Rahimahullah Ta'ala, he is saying that celebrating the Prophet's birthday, to me, I think it is a good innovation. And that includes reading the Sirah, studying the Sirah, reciting the Quran, the people gathering, the people congregating upon goodness. But it is a innovation. Are there good innovations or bad innovations? We'll get there. Now, listen carefully to what he says. He says the reason why it's an innovation that a person will be rewarded for, because it includes respecting Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, venerating the Prophet, honoring the Prophet, showing your love for the Prophet. It's not an ordinary day. The Prophet was born on this. The guidance all began on this day. And a person being happy, taking pride in his birth. Alright, let's move forward now. Suyuti Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, says, وَأَوَّلُ مَنْ أَحْدَثَ فِعْلَ ذَلِكَ صاحب إربل الملك المظفر أبو سعيد كوكبري ابن زين الدين علي ابن بكتكسين أحد الملوك الأنباد والكبراء الأجواد وكان له آثار حسنة وهو الذي عمل الجامع المظفر إلى آخره. He says, and the very first person to invent this, to bring this about, to introduce celebrating the Prophet's birthday was this king. So Suyuti died 9/11. Whoever is this great king, whoever he was, this sultan, this caliph, he had obviously come what before Suyuti? Ibn Hajar, 852, he said none of the what? None of the three generations did it. So according to Ibn Hajar, who Suyuti quoted, this is a new thing. We can all agree that this is a what? New thing. There's no doubt about that. No one can come along and say this is the origin. Who say it's an innovation? They're the innovators. They're the new people. They're going against the consensus. Scholastically, you have disqualified yourself from any respect. Suyuti then says, this king, Abu Sa'id, Kawkabri, obviously non-Arabic origin, Persian, so on and so forth. This king, this sultan, this conqueror, he was a great conqueror. He did so many things for the Muslims. He did so many things for the people. Right? قال ابن كثير في تاريخه. Ibn Kathir. Suyuti is now quoting someone who came before him. That's Ibn Kathir, a historian. Ibn says about this king, كان يعمل المولد الشريف في ربيع الأول ويحتفل به احتفالا هائلا وكان شهما بطلا عاقلا عالما عادلا رحمه الله وأكرم مثواه. Ibn Kathir says about this man, and we're going to get into when he lived, when he died, what dynasty did he belong to. We're going to get into that, but Ibn Kathir says about this man, he is the one who made the Prophet's birthday and his celebration. So how many scholars do we have so far who all unanimously agree that it's a new thing? Ibn Hajar, Ibn Kathir, Suyuti. All three of them agree that it is introduced. Is it a good introduction or bad introduction? That's a what? That's a second discussion. But we should not be different on the fact that it isn't original. It isn't original. He says about this king, he says, he is the one who made this celebration in the month of Rabi'ul Awwal, and he used to make a grand bash, birthday bash, a grand celebration. Ihtifalan ha'ilan. It was a major, big thing that he introduced. And this king was very shus. He was a lion, shaja'. He was afraid of nobody. Aqilan. He was highly intelligent. Aliman. He was a great scholar. Adilan. He was a judge. He was a very virtuous king. But for sure, he is the founding father of making it an official celebration. So regardless of his virtues and all of his acquisitions and accolades, Ibn Kathir, Suyuti, Ibn Hajar, he is the founding father of the birthday. So before we have the discussion, you can agree that it should be done. It's a good thing, but you can't say that I'm going against the 40 imams. And anyone who says that has disqualified himself from the scholastic circle. You don't belong in this circle. Holler, scream, abuse, call names, that's fine. But in the circle of knowledge and ilm, you can wait by the door. You can do what? You can wait by the door. Alright? Moving forward. He says, قال وقد صنف له الشيخ أبو الخطاب ابن كتاب مجلدا في المولد النبوي سماه تنوير في مولد بشير النذير فجازوا على ذلك ب1000 دينار. Then he talks about how some scholars, they wrote books on the permissibility of celebrating the Prophet's birthday. And that it's a good thing to celebrate the Prophet's birthday, and how they were rewarded by the rulers. They gave them money for writing this book. It's a good piece of work that you've offered to my court. This is your reward. He goes on to say, وقال السبت بن الجوزي في مرآة الزمان حكى بعض من حضر صمات المظفر أنه بعد في ذلك الصمات 5000 رأس غنم مشوي و10,000 دجاجة. He says some people said that his celebration of the Prophet's birthday was so grand. It was so grand that he had sacrificed 5,000 sheep and goat. 5,000 for this party. And 10,000 chickens and roosters and hens. It's a grand celebration. Everybody's going to eat till they're full, have enough for leftovers, take home. It's enough food for everybody. This is a grand celebration. Think how 5,000 animals. How many men? One average sheep is going to feed how many men? 4? How many? Average size, not a real big family. How many going to eat from that? How many men? It's going to be only 3? 15. Let's say 10. So if it says 5,000 of mutton, 10,000 chickens, he says, well, mi'atu farasin, in 100 horses. Wa mi'at alf zabadiyya, wa 30 alf sahn halwa. And then he talks about the sweets, the pastries, the yogurts, so on and so forth. وكان يحضر عنده في المولد أعيان العلماء والصوفية يقرأ عليهم ويطلق لهم ويعمل الصوفية سماعا من الظهر إلى الفجر ويرقص بنفسه معهم. And then he talks about how all the prominent scholars of his dominion, they all attended, along with the Sufi scholars, they attended, and how he would allow them to sing and dance from Dhuhr to Fajr. And the king himself would dance. He says, this is Suyuti's words. It's not my words, it's not, and I'll see some other slides. This individual, according from this one source now, he talks about how the birthday in itself took place. Okay? All right, people giving charity, sweets, pastries, so on and so forth. Then he quotes another historian, another scholar, وقال ابن خلد كان, all right, كان العلماء ومشاهد الفضلاء. He talks about the virtue of this scholar, the virtue of this leader. So far, based off of this one source, all we have found for the proofs and the evidences is A, deducing respecting the Prophet, and B, what this scholar and what that scholar did. But that doesn't mean that there aren't precedences. Don't think that. And that's unfair to what? To say that. And that isn't scholastic. You differ on the usage of these things, but it doesn't mean that they have no what? Proofs and evidences. The only thing that we're right now is discussing the historical context, according to Suyuti. All right, moving forward. He says, قال رحمه الله الحمد لله الذي هدانا لاتباع سيد المرسلين وهدايته إلى دعائم الدين ويسر لنا اقتفاء آثار السلف الصالحين. That's interesting now. Suyuti quoting the scholar who came before him saying that what? All praises for Allah who guided the path of the prophets and the messengers and made it easy for us to adopt the example of the Salaf as-Salih. I thought that following the Salaf as-Salih was a new thing. That's what I was told. My man told me that. My man told me that came from Saudi Arabia. My man told me that came from Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. My man that was made to split up the Muslims, etc. But wait a second now. Something is off. Somebody lied to somebody. Somebody hid what? Somebody has an agenda and somebody's exposing or exploiting it. Somehow. There's no way we're reading from the 9th century, 8th century, and you're telling me that it's made up. Something is off now. Moving forward. Suyuti, he says here, he goes on, he says, أما بعد فإنه سؤال جماعة من المباركين عن الاجتماع الذي يعمله بعض الناس في شهر ربيع الأول ويسمونه المولد هل له أصل في الشرع أو هو بدعة وحدث في الدين وقصد عن ذلك مبينا والإيضاح عنه. He said many people have asked about this. They've asked about celebrating the Prophet's birthday. Now, what do we benefit before we stop? Obviously, we don't have enough to benefit something that's very important historically. If people kept asking about it in these later generations and centuries, it proved what? No, doesn't prove there's something wrong with it.
It's discussed.
That it was discussed, that doesn't prove. It's something very important. Just think about it. Think about it. No. Just think about it. Listen, everybody listen carefully. So right now, I want to cook some food. I'm your guest. I'm staying in your house. You don't have to cook for me. I like to cook myself. No problem. Everything's for you in the kitchen, Mufti. Feel free. My wife is on another side. It's the guest room. You got to worry about nobody coming out. Feel free. You can cook. When you wearing a throw, basketball shorts, do-rag. This is your guest house. The kitchen is what? Yours. So I'm going to ask him, I'm going to text him, where is the salt and the pepper? But I'm not going to ask him, do you have what? Salt and pepper. Why am I not going to ask you that question? Because salt and pepper is what? Is a known staple. But I can ask you, and I keep asking you, do you have cumin? Do you have turmeric? Do you have sweet basil? Do you have roasted paprika? Because everyone doesn't what? So the fact keeps coming up proves that it wasn't a what? Thank you. It wasn't established and well known. And which the one who dared not to celebrate the birthday was evil. But it was a new thing of which the people found to be problematic. Hence they did what? Thank you. You know, I keep asking the same question, do we have to make 5 prayers in a day? Do we have to make Hajj? Do we have to perform Umrah? Do we have to pay zakat? Because that's what? Well established. Well established. Pay attention to the analyzing the text now. So many scholars, they're being asked about this, proving that it was what? Thank you. So you can say that it's fine, but you can't come along and abuse and accuse and say this and say that about someone who differs with you. He says, this scholar, he says, Suyuti is quoting him obviously. He says, فقلت بالله التوفيق لا أعلم لهذا الموت أصلا في كتاب ولا سنة ولا ينقل عمله عن أحد من علماء الأمة الذين هم القدوة في الدين. He says, I don't know. I don't know of any foundation and proof for this. From Quran, from Sunnah. It hasn't been narrated from any of the scholars of this ummah who are the examples and role models. Another scholar may differ with him, but for him to say that proves that at best celebrating the Prophet's birthday is bad. At best. And there's no way that you can say there's consensus. Fair enough? Fair deducement or not? At best is what? Ijtihad. Hopefully we're going to need another session on this. We'll read, and we have to read what different scholars say about this issue. But I'm just trying to show you historic atmosphere. All right, tell you. We'll stop here. Obviously, it's getting late. People are getting tired. The moral of the story is, it's a very long discussion according to this one source. And in this one source, we have already seen the scholars of Islam have not unanimously agreed upon the celebration of the Prophet's birthday. Come on. Point 2, the scholars unanimously, here according to the source, is that it is a new introduction. Good or bad, but it is what? It's new. Thirdly, according to this one source, we have seen and we have learned is that people have done things during the Prophet's birthday celebration that they don't agree with. That they what? That they don't agree with. So in 2024, in this masjid, we're going to celebrate the Prophet's birthday. This is why. These are the scholars that we trust and we follow. But what you're doing, no scholar allowed. Understand the difference? No imam said it's okay for you to what? Do what you're doing. So even with celebrating it, there's a what? There's a limit. There's a limit. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala, there's much more to be said. There's much more to be read. There's only one source. There are many, many other sources. What era did that leader live in? What was his association? That's a very important discussion to be had. What discrepancy? Well, that's a further discussion. And that's why I brought up the issue of Christmas. When exactly was Christ born? Do they know why December the 25th? The pagans, that's a further discussion to be had. What's important is we'll stop here, right for the con. We said it's not going to be everything. This is only a what? Skimming of the surface. I believe my introduction was more than what? Clear on what we are and what we what? Aren't going to do in this discussion. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best.
Well, this is why it's a right? So even if it's a good Hassan bid'ah or not, it's still a bid'ah.